Hello, my name is Jonathan Garvey, and today I'm going to be talking about reintegration of Marines into the civilian world. Not exclusively Marines, we will also be talking about veterans in general who have been in combat and have post traumatic stress disorder, and talk on why it's so hard for them to reintegrate into the civilian world. I was a Marine and I did 2 tours to Afghanistan. And I am a private military contractor in Iraq. And I work with a bunch of veterans and even current military personnel as well. We all have an uncle or father, um, maybe a friend's father, somebody who was a Marine and who is just known as being a pretty intense person. And and that's true. They're pretty intense, and I want to talk about why they're intense, how that shaped them, how that affects them as they go back to the civilian world, and how their past experiences can help them reintegrate into society and the skills that they learned in the Marine Corps work for the benefit of themselves as well as society in general. So, to get started, I want to talk about Marine Corps boot camp and how it's basically they strip you of your identity. You have to talk in third person. You eat a certain way. You have to walk a certain way. You have to um, go to bed at a certain time. You wake up at a certain time. You use new names for new things. Windows are portholes. Quarterdeck is the front of the room. Just the head is the bathroom. There's all these different names. And so they change it. They turn your world upside down, basically. And you don't use your cell phone, or you don't watch movies. You have no TV, obviously. You don't talk to anyone except your peers, and you better not be talking and having a good time because they will come and scream in your face. So you have that experience, and then what that's meant to do is to present you to a new world, and for that then to start build up on an identity from there. You start to learn about the history of the Marine Corps. You learn about famous battles where incredible historical figures like John Basilone, who won a Medal of Honor in Japan in World War II. And you start learning about these legacies that is your responsibility to uphold these legacies that you're learning about. And why will you even be able to uphold these legacies? Because you're going to be a Marine, and that's what they're teaching you in boot camp. So they're really harping on these identities in boot camp because they want you to grab a hold of that. So they reframe words and culture. They recontextualize your mindsets over here in boot camp and even in School of Infantry. So that's one layer of identity building that the Marine Corps does, and that's from boot camp. And then the second layer would be your actual school, where you go after boot camp, what you're going to be. Because in the Marine Corps and in every branch in the military, you have all sorts of different jobs. You have mechanics, and you have pilots, and you have combat engineers, and then you have infantrymen, and then within infantry you have all these different things. So the infantry is basically a gang. It's a small group of Marines that they have that job. Their only job is combat, and they're really proud of it. And the legacy part that they really have the pressure to uphold is all the famous war stories that you learn in boot camp and in movies, and all these things, these references that we see all the time. Those are infantry, and those guys are really, really harping on continuing that legacy. It's a pretty tough world, the infantry world in the Marine Corps, and you know what? Even in the Army as well, just the same. They're grunts. The Army are known as grunts, and Marines are known as grunts as well, and they're very proud of that. So all these mindsets that they learn about never giving up, about never retreating, these mindsets, these are really good for war. And it's pretty common that they would teach such mindsets. Common sense. And these mindsets have helped us in battle, except they're meant for very intense scenarios and situations. And that's great. It probably brought a lot of soldiers back. But how do you reintegrate into society with all of these different experiences and even skills? Some of the skills, like being a medic in the battlefield, that actually is a great skill to have. You could go and be a nurse. Some of the skills, like for normal infantrymen like myself, like I was, the skills of shooting and stuff, then I started to apply for security jobs and even police work. I was a private investigator for a while. These are really great skills that you can use for all these different areas. But I think the main issue really is about how to reintegrate into society, as in how do you build up socially again? Because socially, social interaction is such an important part of our experience as humans. And that's one of the big things that Marines are missing out on. You see, Marines have a high suicide rate, the highest of all the branches. And what's crazy is the Marine Corps is the smallest branch of all the branches. In fact, it's a sub-branch of the Navy. They're not even their own branch. And for them to have the highest suicide rate is really interesting. And that's also mainly because Marines are a primarily combat branch. So they're right there in the action, which does create PTSD. PTSD is a huge correlation with suicide. So all that makes a lot of sense. They're meant to have very intense experiences. And so they need some help. They need some help reintegrating. And we're going to talk about that right now. One of the reasons that they have a hard time reintegrating into society is because they adopt a singular identity mindset. And in one of my interviews with Sergeant Michael Burke, who is a recon Marine, and he has a couple deployments to Afghanistan as well, it's really important to note that he was talking about how the singular identity mindset is a hindrance. But there are mindsets that of Marines that become CEOs, entrepreneurs. They're go-getters. They are the ones that take the mental toughness that was taught to them in their overall Marine Corps experience and use them as tools in their new battlefield. You see, all these tools that Marines have in order to get them through really hard situations, these tools can be helped to actually become CEOs, to actually be entrepreneurs, or to be successful in working for any business. Honor, courage, commitment, I believe, are some of the most important skills and attributes that Marines adopt when they're in the Marine Corps. It's the motto of the Marine Corps: honor, courage, commitment. If they learn how to use these in the new battlefield, with the battlefield would be family, work, and friends, Honor, courage, and commitment will take you in such long ways. You know, honor in the sense that you're faithful. You know, you have honor to integrity, and people are going to trust you. And courage because you're definitely going to go after your goals. You're going to take on your obstacles head on, and commitment to all the things that are priorities in your life, like your family, like your work, like your friends. That's a recipe for success. And those are the kind of principles that Marines need to take into society and take from the Marine Corps, not take all the other extra added stuff of kill, 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 and all the stuff you learn in boot camp and in School of Infantry, but instead to take the honor, courage, commitment, to take on the new battlefield, which is being successful in family, in your work, and in your social life. These are the new battlefields that need to be conquered. So in conclusion, Marines have skills that can be and are very valuable to society. New programs would be helpful in the reintegration of Marines and teaching them how to use the skills they have learned for their benefit in obtaining a job and meshing well with the civilian world. That's it. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.